Hello and welcome to DK Sports Radio. I'm Matt Grubba, and it's time for the Pitt Show. Pitt Show is brought to you by Bazzi Vreeland & Associates, the exclusive sponsor for coverage of Pitt athletics at DKPittsburghSports.com and DK Radio. With several Pitt alums, homegrown Pittsburgh attorneys, and deep roots in the communities of southwestern Pennsylvania, the attorneys at Bazzi Vreeland & Associates are proud to bring quality coverage of Pitt athletics from the top independent sports website in Pittsburgh. Let's jump into it here. It's a balmy summer day as we record this. Hope everybody's having a good 4th of July, or had a good 4th of July holiday. For the Panthers, it's a quiet time, of course. Kids are still going through the motions with summer courses and workouts. Nothing huge to report on that front, especially as recruiting, for football at least, hits a dead period. That's where we're going to start. Just hopefully you guys have had a chance to check out the website this week. Sunday night, just sort of had a little analysis piece looking at where we stand for Pitt going into class of 2019 recruiting and all the verbal commitments that came in. Pitt up to 14 players for the class coming in next year. Of course, that's the recruiting focus now with this year's roster all but set in stone. It's some good and bad with what Pitt's done, but I tend to think it's mostly good. 10 of the 14 players that have committed for 2019 are on the defensive side of the ball. I can't see how that's a bad thing when you consider this is a Pitt team that over the last 2 seasons we've had the shootout with Syracuse, giving up 59 points last season to Oklahoma State, and really just struggling on the defensive side until the last month of the season. They started to come around, certainly good performances the last 2 games to keep them in the game with Virginia Tech and to win the game against Miami. So you're seeing signs that the Pitt defense is improving. Of course, now they have a new defensive coordinator, Randy Bates, a few new coaches, and Archie Collins, Corey Sanders on that side of the ball. So trying to reshape this defense a little bit. And the place where a lot of the recruiting has come has been the defensive line. 5 of the 14 total recruits are defensive linemen. 4 of them ends. Guys that possibly could at some point convert to linebacker, be rush ends, depending on how this defense is going to shape up. But that's clearly how Pitt is looking to build this defense, is to be strong up front, to be able to stop the run. That was what they were certainly better at last year, stopping the run. They were in the top half of the ACC in run defense while being near the bottom in both pass defense and overall. But some of these players they're bringing in are guys that look like they can play. The guy that really jumps off to me is defensive end Brandon Mack from Montgomery, Alabama. He's a guy that, again, if you've listened to the podcast before, I don't put too terribly much stock in the old star ratings, but he's a 3-star type guy. But he's a guy who had offers from LSU, Louisville, Ole Miss, top 25 level schools. So clearly they're seeing something, too, that also the Panthers saw, and the Panthers were able to go in and bring the guy up from Alabama to come to Pitt. And, that I think he could be a real player for him. Had a chance to see his highlights, online. Of course, once again, those are highlights. So they're clearly the best plays. I'm sure there's holes in his game that he's going to have to work on as he comes to college. But he's a guy with an athletic build, about 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds, gets up the field. He plays, you see, as both a stand-up player and in a three-point stance. If he's going to be an end in college, he's going to have to bulk up a little, and he plays a little upright, more of a runner than like a low pad level driving guys off the ball guy. But these are things that a lot of kids out of high school are going to get to college and they're going to work on them with. But guys like him coming in on the defensive line, that looks like an area where Pitt's already strong there. Certainly with Dwayne Hendricks on one end, if he can stay healthy, they're expecting huge things from him. Rashad Weaver on the other end as a sophomore. That's they're speaking very highly of. Put in a really good spring for the Panthers. So, that's going to be an area where it'll be a strength of their defense. I'm just going to go out there and make that. Don't worry about the Pitt defensive line. It looks like don't worry about them for many years to come here. Some other things, just observations out of what they've been able to bring in recruiting-wise. They seem to be really targeting certain guys that they want, and they're putting on the full court press to get them. You have a guy like quarterback Davis Beville, the kid from South Carolina that's the only quarterback committed for their class. He's a guy that, quarterbacks coach Sean Watson, who's also the offensive coordinator, really seemed to have him singled out as a guy they wanted. And, looking at recruiting ratings, people had him ranked as high as some guys, have him in the top 15 pro-style quarterbacks. Some have him outside of the top 40 for quarterbacks overall. There's no consensus when you have guys that are outside, the top 5 studs, 10 studs nationwide, that Elite 11 quarterback, sort of deal. He's a guy, 6'6", big frame, pro-style guy that the Panthers wanted. And they really, went after him, got their guy. And I think that speaks to them at least having a vision for how they want to grow this offense, how they want to develop. I mean, Beville's a guy that if Kenny Pickett pans out, you hopefully aren't going to see him on the field for a couple of years at least. So I like how the Panthers seem to have a target going. Now, the big measurement's going to be once these guys do hit the field, are they picking out guys who are going to be able to compete at an ACC level or guys they can develop into ACC-level players? That's the question, and that's really always the question. We aren't really going to know who wins Class of 29 recruiting until 2021 or 2022 when you see these guys on the field. So I'm staying away from knee-jerk reactions, but so far, so good for the Panthers in that front. We're going to come back in just a moment. Just got some news and notes, some basketball, and had a fun conversation earlier today that you're going to end up seeing a lot of on the website come the end of this week. So we're going to talk some about that right here on the Pitt Show on DK Sports Radio.
Injured in an accident? Need assistance in preserving your business's interests? Let the attorneys at Bassey, Vreeland & Associates protect your legal rights. For over 65 years, Bassey, Vreeland & Associates has been representing the citizens and businesses of southwestern Pennsylvania. With offices strategically located in Washington and Charleroi, Bassey, Vreeland & Associates can deliver results for you throughout the Pittsburgh area. Visit www.bmvlaw.com or call 724-228-7000 to see how Bassey, Vreeland & Associates can meet your legal needs. Bassey, Vreeland & Associates. We fight, we care, we win.
Miller Lite is the original light beer, and we'll always brew it to have more taste, with only 96 calories and 3.2 carbs. Because we believe that if you compromise on taste, you can taste the compromise. Miller Lite. Hold true.
Great beer, great responsibility. 2018 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Average analysis, 12 fluid ounces. Less than 1 gram protein, 0 grams fat.
If you're one of the thousands of Western Pennsylvanians who love to get outdoors, then you need to check out this cool new website, stepoutside.org. Learn where, when, and how you can go camping, hiking, or hunting. Or take part in power sports, shooting sports, or water sports in your local community or across the country at stepoutside.org, where everything you need to know is just a click away. That's stepoutside.org.
What I want from my public accounting firm is big ideas.
But I don't want to lose the personal attention.
My company needs global capabilities.
From a firm with local ownership.
And I want to work with industry experts
who take the time to understand my unique challenges. And that's what sets Schneider Downs apart. Expertise for the most complex business issues, with the service you need every day. To learn how our big thinking with a personal focus can help your company, visit schneiderdowns.com.
Injured in an accident? Need assistance in preserving your business's interests? Let the attorneys at Bassey, Vreeland & Associates protect your legal rights. For over 65 years, Bassey, Vreeland & Associates has been representing the citizens and businesses of southwestern Pennsylvania. With offices strategically located in Washington and Charleroi, Bassey, Vreeland & Associates can deliver results for you throughout the Pittsburgh area. Visit www.bmvlaw.com or call 724-228-7000 to see how Bassey, Vreeland & Associates can meet your legal needs. Bassey, Vreeland & Associates. We fight, we care, we win.
Welcome back to the Pitt Show. I'm Matt Grubba, your Pitt Everything beat writer at DKPittsburghSports.com. Thanks once again to our sponsors for all our Pitt coverage, Bassey, Vreeland & Associates. They are the ones that really help me be able to get everywhere with the Panthers and sort of bring you all the coverage, every sport, every twist and turn with the Panthers. And, some good news for a former Panther that, was a story I was happy to get up on the site back on Monday. Brad Wanamaker, who's, one of the hardest working guys that's come through Pitt basketball during their, 2000s renaissance, was a backup, a hard worker on the Elite Eight team behind DeJuan Blair, Sam Young, that crowd, worked his way into being sort of a star in his own right, an honorable mention All-American. Guy's been working his butt off in Europe, no other way to say it, bouncing from team to team. Everywhere he goes, he's been winning in Europe, and after 7 years as a pro there, just signed his first NBA deal, a 1-year contract with the Boston Celtics. Guy's taking a bet on himself. Minimum deal with the Celtics. He had over a deal of over $3 million for the next year on the table from Barcelona. He could have gone to Spain from Turkey, where he was playing in Europe. But he wanted to take a shot at the NBA at 28. He's probably right around his physical peak. Thought this is the time. The Celtics are a great opportunity for him, especially with the way they stand in free agency. It's possible he could come in and work himself as maybe the fourth guard in the rotation there behind guys like Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, and Terry Rozier there. There's still yet to be determined what's going to happen with Marcus Smart and some of their free agents. So, he's a guy that, he'll join. Steven Adams has been with Oklahoma City for a while now in the NBA, and Jamel Artis got a few games last season with Orlando. But it's just good to see a Pitt presence in the NBA. Given the quality of their teams, during the Jamie Dixon era, it's a little surprising that there haven't been more guys that make it. Certainly DeJuan Blair had a nice long run with a few teams, the Spurs and the Wizards among them, while he was in the NBA. Sam Young had a nice little run with the Grizzlies before going overseas. It's just, I think, good for the program. Much like we talk about with Pitt football, when you see Larry Fitzgerald or LaShawn McCoy, guys that are NFL, in their cases, all pro level players. It's good for the college program to just have these guys that, even in a case like Wanamaker, if he can just become a rotation guy and contribute, I think that helps recruiting immensely when you say, hey, guys from this program can get to that top level. So, that's good news for him. Looking forward to seeing. I'm sure he's going to be on the court very soon in Summer League. Speaking of the NBA, and this might seem like a strange transition, but of course, if you know the history of the man I'm about to speak of, you know why this is the transition. Had a great chance on Tuesday this week to sit down and talk with a man, not a Pitt graduate necessarily, but a man associated with Pitt for decades now and who's been a fan since his childhood, the legend, Dick Groat. He was very hospitable, welcoming both me and our photographer, Matt Sunday, out to Champion Lakes, the golf course he owns out in Westmoreland County, and just had a chance to sit down and talk with him for a story that will be on the site late in the week this week, so hopefully you'll check that out. Just checking the guy's 87 years old, has lived just a legendary life. From being the first jersey retired in the history of Duke basketball, drafted in the NBA with the Fort Wayne Pistons, not yet in Detroit yet, but also, played his rookie year with the Pirates, got called up for military service, so 2 years there, came back, was a baseball-only player, went on to win a World Series with the Pirates, went to the Cardinals, was the National League MVP, and then for the current generation who, wasn't alive to see his playing career, myself among them, he's known as the color commentary, the voice of the Panthers alongside Bill Hillgrove, and getting to sit down with Dick Groat was just, such an enjoyable time. It didn't even feel like an interview because, just the stories he could tell. Some of them, I don't want to go into too many of the good ones now because I want you guys to check out the story on DKPittsburghSports.com. But, the man is, first of all, he's so you would imagine this both being Duke guys, but he's so happy with the Jeff Capel hire. Capel is a guy that he is known for a while because of their Duke connections, and, Dick Groat is very bullish on where the Panthers basketball program can be going. He also, shared some thoughts, his disappointment with where the Pirates organization is right now. But the man is 87. The most important thing I think a lot of people want to know is he says that as long as he's physically able to, he plans to continue being out there, working on the radio with Pitt basketball alongside Bill Hillgrove and supporting the program. That and he says this to people. It's like, well, you played at Duke, aren't you a Duke fan? He says, well, yes, but he's a Pitt fan first because he grew up in Pittsburgh. He grew up as a Pitt fan, and that's where his first loyalty lies. And just some great time talking with him. How few athletes are there that can say they played in Major League Baseball and the NBA? Yeah, just such a great guy. So, nice of him to welcome us out there earlier this week. So we hope you'll check out when I get a chance to sit down, just write up some of the, some of his insights into what's going on today with Pitt basketball, the Pirates, and just sports in general. We hope you'll check that out. Thanks for listening to the Pitt Show here on DK Sports Radio. Again, I'm Matt Grubba. Thanks to our sponsor, Bazzi Vreeland Associates. Thanks to Chris Benson for producing, as always. Probably going to be a little gap here before we do another Pitt Show, maybe a couple of weeks before we get some football recruiting live again. I'm going to be headed down to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2 weeks' time. ACC kickoff, the big media days for all 14 ACC teams. That's coming up in 2 weeks' time, so I'm going to be down there. So we'll probably kick the Pitt Show back up with news from Charlotte, what Pitt's opponents, what everybody's saying going into the new football season. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to being able to share it with you. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned to DK Sports Radio.